Hi, I'm Megan Coon with Powerhouse Real Estate, and today I want to update you on all of the recent policy changes that have happened to our industry. Here in Utah specifically, I want to cover how we're handling it here. However, one thing I want to note is this is across the country a change that has taken place. So it isn't specific to Utah, but every state is handling it a little bit differently. So we're going to be really specific about how Utah is handling it today. So a couple of things that have happened. There obviously was a giant lawsuit that happened with the NAR and local real estate agents in a different state surrounding agency and how agents are paid. And so the NAR paid out a very lofty settlement to get the lawsuits all handled. And now we have some new policies in place from this settlement. So essentially, the biggest changes are going to be how agents are paid and some of the documentation that needs to happen for you to work with a real estate agent. So I want to talk about each side and how this might affect you. So as a seller, you have a couple of options when it comes to working with an agent or not. You obviously have the option and always have had the option to sell your home by owner. So you would handle everything yourself. You list a home for sale on sites like KSL and you advertise it, you put a sign in your yard, you handle all of the contracts, negotiations, paperwork, title, all of the things that go with selling a home are handled by you directly. Now, you may or may not work with an agent on the other side. That's up to you as the seller and as handling your own sale. However, there is a good chance that you would be asked to work with an agent on the other side. Now, obviously, you also have the option to work with an agent, which a lot of people are still doing, even though all of these changes are taking place. You have the option to interview as many agents as you prefer and choose one that you want to work with. There are different service levels that come with all real estate agents, and this hasn't changed. This has been the case for years. There's been all different types of service levels, commission setups, what people charge to sell your home for you. So you have the option to interview many, choose the service level and the agent that you prefer, and negotiate the price to sell your home. Now, what is changing is you don't have to offer a buyer agent commission anymore. You can offer a buyer agent commission, but it is an option and it's not going to be advertised on the MLS anymore. This is something that will be negotiated with the contract. Honestly, I think this is a great change for sellers especially because it gives you the option to negotiate everything at the same time. Previously, you would set an amount that we were offering for the buyer agent commission. We would put that out there on the MLS. It was locked in and we had to keep that amount. Now, when the offer would come over, it was negotiated, all the terms in the offer were negotiated. We could go back and negotiate the commissions, but that wasn't happening hardly ever because it was already done and handled and almost forgotten about. Where now, it's going to be part of the contract. So as we're negotiating price, we're negotiating closing costs, we're negotiating repairs, it's all together and we can negotiate it all together so that you feel like all of the pieces are there and you know exactly what you're getting and you can feel good about it. So for a seller, this is great news. You have the option to include the commission or not. Now, if you don't include the commission on your listing agreement with your agent, then your agent is not allowed to discuss commission at all. If you do include it on there, then the agent can offer that commission to the agent, but it isn't something that will be locked in until a separate form is filled out with everybody signing to agree that that's how much you're willing to pay that agent. Okay, let's move to the buyer side. So for buyers, you actually have three options when it comes to how you will purchase your next home. You can choose to either work with a real estate agent, and just like a seller, you can choose the service level, you can choose how much you pay that real estate agent. You could choose to not work with a real estate agent. This would look like you calling off of signs to schedule showings with agents that have home listings. So you're scheduling all your own showings. You're also writing your own contract. You're handling your own title, scheduling your own inspection, doing all of the things yourself that your agent would handle for you. The third option would be you can actually choose to use the agent of the home listing that you're buying. So if you go and look at a home and you fall in love with it, and that seller has an agent that they're using, then you can ask that agent if they will represent you and the seller together. What this means is that you would still handle all of your own showings, you would look at homes on your own, but then when it comes to the contract, that agent could help you write the contract and help you navigate some of the parts after the contract. However, something to keep in mind, not all agents can do this. It's actually up to the seller if they want to share their agent or if they won't allow it. Another thing is that when someone as an agent is working for both the buyer and the seller, we're limited in what we can offer you because obviously we can't give you full discretion, we can't give you our full attention and all of our full services because we also represent the opposing side. And so we have to make sure that we're a neutral person in the middle, just handling paperwork, almost robotic to make sure that things are handled, but we can't help you through negotiations, we can't help you through any of those hard conversations or questions that you might have that if we were only representing you, we could have with you. Because then it also limits what we can do for the other side. With that last option also, if you're choosing to share an agent, then prices can vary. They could choose to still just charge the seller for the commission and do your side for a discount. They could still charge a full commission. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is you're still most likely going to be charged a commission. You just might not know what it is until you get to the specific home and decide if that agent is willing to work with you or not. All of that information that I just gave you hasn't changed. All of your options that you have for both buyers and sellers is the same. You were always able to negotiate the commissions. You were always able to go without an agent or use a dual agent if it was available. However, the biggest changes, like I mentioned for the seller side, we're no longer advertising the buyer agent commissions on the MLS. They're being negotiated directly through the contract outside of the MLS, and which is just being handled at a different time and a different way. So it doesn't really make a huge impact to you as a buyer or seller as far as what is being paid. Now, it's all going to be determined by each situation, and that's kind of been the case always anyway. One thing that has changed significantly though is if you are choosing to work with a buyer's agent as a buyer, then you will have to sign an agreement before you go and look at homes. Now, we've always had a buyer's agreement in Utah. This isn't something new. They've tweaked it just a little bit, but you do have to sign it before you go and look at homes. What this is doing is, number one, it's solidifying how your agent's going to be paid, because you want to make sure you understand that, as well as your agent needs to make sure that that's understood before we start working together and offering advice and acting as your agent. Number two, it sets expectations up front. That buyer agreement is going to show exactly what your agent is going to give you for the amount that they're going to be paid. So you're locking your agent into those fiduciary duties right up front, as well as allowing the agent to act as your agent up front without or under contract, so that we're not doing it without everything signed and legalized. So those are the biggest changes that we're seeing so far in our market. We aren't seeing a big shift in sellers not paying buyer agency commission. So this could definitely change as time goes on, and it is very subjective to each property. So it just depends on what that seller is willing to offer, how they're willing to offer, and really as a buyer, what your offer looks like. Because if you're offering full price or a little over what they're asking, then the seller's going to be a lot more willing to work with you on some of these other things, versus if you're trying to come in with a low offer, ask for closing costs, ask for commissions, then obviously that's going to put the seller in a hard position. So we're just seeing all these negotiations happening in real time and depending on each subjective property and client. So I just want to debunk that agents are going away. That is not something that is ever going to happen. I fear for the day that that will happen. Obviously, I'm biased because I am a real estate agent, but I think that agents offer a lot of value. I've seen so many situations through all of the homes. I've sold over 100 homes, and every single contract is a little bit different. And there's always something that we have to work through between a buyer and a seller to get to the end of the contract. And so really the responsibility of the agent is to protect you, to make sure that everything's legal, to make sure that you as a client, you're protected so that if anything were to go awry, you wouldn't be sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it could be a huge mess. If you have any questions about these changes and how they might impact you as a buyer or seller, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, talk through this and how it might affect you directly. My name is Megan Coon with Powerhouse Real Estate.